Speaking of which, let's chat a little bit. Even though I only got to see one episode of it, your Grimm miniseries. Let's
Yes.
talk a little bit
A
about how
Grimm
that came about. And
a Grimm miniseries, Final Fracture, is the brainchild of my lovely wife, Kristen Steigert, and is probably the most connective tissued project I've ever created. If you get an opportunity to watch the entire 44-minute show, we have it all in one final film,
mhm.
and it's
On
gotten a lot
Tubi.
of good feedback. What was that?
It's on Tubi.
It's everywhere right now.
Yeah.
But it's one of those films that she came up with, and me and my wife were talking during the pandemic how we could create some type of romantic comedy, and we shot it, the portion that we thought would work, and it didn't work because as a filmmaker, like, I'm known for horror. So there was no horror element to it. It was very bland, blah to watch. So we went back, and when Kristen and I developed this extra character to bring one of the characters from the Horrific Evil Monsters into a solo project and make it the definitive Grim Reaper storyline that I have been trying to tell for many years, ever since we started with the Grim Becoming. And this film is my favorite incarnation of that character, and his humor, the story arc, and how the episodes start off generally with a death, and how each break starts off with a death inside the full film. We shot that during the pandemic. So that film was very unique to shoot because we had no COVID policies that were developed. We had to create those from scratch. Masks were worn, and the whole thing. We did the sanitize and the 6 feet and all that. Like, I did so much reading before we started shooting on it. And when we got together to shoot the first scene in person, because we did some remote stuff with some of the people in California at a different production studio. So I would do it remotely in Buffalo, New York, and then we would shoot some of the segment in California, and then that footage would be sent to New York. And so anyways, I would be directing off of Skype or Zoom or any of the streaming services that we used at the time. And we just were able to tell a really unique story, very connective driven, and it actually allows you to put a place or understand where in the timeline that this series or film would take place. So hopefully you caught that. But it's a very just unique, fun little project, and we had a blast making it. It's been received pretty well so far. It's won quite a number of awards, and I'm very happy because this is like my wife's first like real project, writing from start to finish without any type of intervention by her husband director.
Yeah, I was going to ask what kind of input.
Proud of her. Proud.
What kind of input you gave to her, as far as, I mean, did she just sit and write them all herself, or?
She did. She did. My only input in the entire project, I mean, there was a couple, like, you have to put like a little nod to this film or that film here. But besides those small little contributions, the only thing I recommended was putting the Grim Reaper in the film. But that was something that her and I had kind of mutually come to terms with. But so that is the only real contribution. And then I went, of course, directed it, shot it, and produced it for her. So, I can't wait to see what she does next, because there will be a next.
Well, is there going to be a next to follow on from that one? Because
There
that
is.
story kind of ends on let's call
Yeah.
it a sort of a cliffhanger, I'll say.
Yeah. There is a concept piece being worked on that'll kind of bring the character of Chloe Romero from the Fang universe of films into the fold with the Samantha character, which is her twin sister. And they'll have like a whole little interaction and stuff, and it will conclude their saga. Okay. That is where we're working on right now, is concluding that saga of storyline.
Because she pops into Horrific Evil Monsters as well.
She does. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely curious to see what comes next. And it's hilarious that you're talking about retirement when you have so many project ideas still out there. I mean, there's also Dead West.
Yes, there is Dead West.
It just popped into mind while we were talking about that.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I'm really I'm trying to chart my path to the end. And I don't want to go out as one of those filmmakers, that made a film that went right to streaming and that was it. That was done. Like he didn't do a premiere, he didn't do any promotion on it. Like no one knows him anymore. Like I don't want to become that filmmaker. Like I still have something to contribute. It's just the stories are more focused on a conclusion instead of continuing to build,
No, I can understand that. As far as the end, I think it's just the end means different things to different filmmakers.
Well, that and the fact too is, I'm mentioning a lot of these things, but you're going to see a lot of this start to come to fruition with the Ambus 2 story and the Fang story. It's going to bring these two stories kind of like almost to a merging point at some point, because there are different elements that will be reflected in the Ambus sequel. Like, I'll share this one with you. This has not been shared with anybody, but the Fang House, we have a story concept that those are people that live in the middle zone, I guess you can call it, between Metzberg, ground zero from this nuclear attack in Ambus, and, normal civilization, the next town over. So these are like the degenerates, or those that were forgotten about, or those that have mutated. This is that section of people. And that'll be explored a little bit in Ambus. They do mention that in the sequel. If it ends up happening, we'll see. But the script right now does have a little section about that. It does talk a little small section about the Crowleys and their influence on the greater universe of storytelling.
That's awesome. Because Fang is one of my favorites. And again, you go on a completely different subgenre. Like you hit sort of, you've got like werewolf, you've got space aliens, zombies, and in all somehow within the same universe. I kind of like that, because like when you started, I think you were revolving the universe around Gore, around that character, and then you went and started sort of going into Grimm, and then now it's the Romero sisters, let's call it, even though it's more about one of them. But that's pretty cool. I really like that.
Yeah, there's some interesting things that are still floating out there that I've talked with Melody about, that I hope that will come to fruition one day. She's one of my favorite actresses to work with, and she's really put a lot into those characters. And she just loves the Chloe Romero character from Fang. That's just one of her favorite roles, she's told me before. So any opportunity to come back would be something she's really interested in. And also, I've spoken to Gregory Blair several times. There's an idea about how we would bring him back too for a sequel. So, both of those original cast members have been talked to. Even Jenny Russo, who played Shelley, who was killed off in that film, was even briefly spoken to about a potential return. But I won't talk too much about that.
And Jenny was also in Horrific Evil Monsters.
Yes, that you could see of her.
Yeah,
that's right. With her
face covered.
Yeah.
I was just.
It's a hard face to cover, though. I will say that.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I was going to ask you about, I know I'm blessed to have a wife that puts up with my.
Well, she's supportive of you.
Stupid supportive of me. And so I'm just curious to know about, because I did watch a part of the Grimm series documentary, the making of. I watched a little bit of that, and then it's how did you find? Because my wife fell into this with me, but it looks like your wife already was kind of there and kind of knew about it. Can you explain that whole dynamic with your wife?
Yeah, Adam, tell us how you met.
Yeah, I want to.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Me and Kristen met on a film set, and the PG version of this is I turned to the production manager and I said, I'd like to go out with that girl one day. Of course, those aren't the exact words I used. And he says to me, turns to me, he says to me, good luck. She's getting married in a month. And I said, I said, well, I've had less time. But miracles happen, and we reconnected a couple months later, and then a couple of years later, she left her husband for me. So, hey, what can I say? Well, I don't want to say she left her husband because that wouldn't be politically correct if I would say she left her husband for me. They were already on the outs, but it was my benefit that they were on the outs. I'll say that.
Well, I mean, as far as what so she was kind of already in the
so she came out as an extra. I guess I should probably finish the story. She came out as an extra. She came out as an extra, and that was actually on a film called Bites the Fever, which is the sequel to the original Bites film that I did not produce. So somebody obtained the rights from me because they thought they saw a benefit in making a sequel, and made the sequel. And she came out and was a zombie extra, and she was a schoolgirl zombie extra too. And oh man, she's a good looking girl. And then she kind of we were talking about this the other day. She has had her fingers in every little project somewhere. Either she was going to be an actress in one thing, or she worked on makeup on another, or she was crew on this or crew on that. She'll say she doesn't like filmmaking, but she really does love the art. So we connect on that level.
Well, in more recent projects, she was co-producer, and then she started co-writing and then writing on her own. So
yeah,
I think she may have gotten the bug somewhere along the way. Yeah.
Well, she has a knack for writing. She's really good at writing the middle sections, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, she is really good at writing dialogue. She is really good at writing story arcs. The thing where I come in, where I put any of my influences in, I'm like, well, you need a little bit of a structure. So you need to add a little bit of this to get you to the story over here. That's really my only contribution. And that's not me telling her she needs to do it like this. It's me saying, hey, you know what? Why don't we put this in there? And together we find a common ground. So it's good to have somebody that's supportive. And I'm glad to hear that you have a lucky person that's supportive as well.
Yeah. It's just, it's always interesting to me. And actually, Itai, we might want to start thinking about another Angie. My wife told me tonight, she goes, you know what? You need to talk to Itai about doing a series of being a filmmaker's wife or significant other or something like that. And I went, well,
I'm gonna be writing a book in the upcoming years, and I've asked Kristen to write little sticky notes. So in the book, it's gonna be a picture book, an actual how to make a film book, and she's gonna have like little stickies where she writes little notes about director's wife. So that's something that we're gonna do. But great minds think alike there, man. Great minds think alike.
Yeah. She's it's kind of funny because she didn't know anything about what I did, when we first met. And it was kind of one of those things. After I met her, I think 4 months later, I did my first movie with her in my life. And it was it was so funny because she was trying to explain to her father what it was that this guy that she had met, what he does. And well, he makes movies. And well, what do you mean he makes? Well, he makes movies. Well, what movies has he made? And she goes, well, I really don't know yet because I've only been with him for 4 months. So, and so she got the Trial by Fire on this short film I did called "Me a Rapist" with a question mark at the end of it. And basically, it was a story about a serial rapist and how he got to be who he was. And it was something that I took from some criminal psychology classes I took when I was in college. So then I make this movie, which she was just like, how can you talk about it? This is about rape. I said, really, you need to read the script to understand what we're talking about here. I'm not endorsing rape. What I'm doing is telling a story about a guy who actually, because most serial rapists don't have any kind of remorse for what they did. But in this movie, taken from a real life situation, this guy had remorse about what it was that he was doing. And so then after we finish this movie, we get it all done and actually got into a handful of film festivals, won Best Director, Best Actor. And then her dad said, "Oh, well, he finished a movie. What's the movie about?" So
can I come see it?
Yeah. Well, she said, "Well, if you want to, yeah, you can watch it." And I don't know to this day if he's ever seen it, but anyway, I just think, watching your behind the scenes stuff and seeing her in there is just, to me, I don't know that you can, as a filmmaker, have a better sidekick or somebody to cheer you on or somebody to talk you out of quitting or talk, and
she has definitely.
Well, good. I'm glad, that, again, I'm not the only one that said, "I'm not going to do this anymore." But it's cool. It's cool to see that. And it's cool to hear that. Well,
it's funny you even say that because we talked about Star and the whole turmoil that had. Right. But after that film was done, I was like, I'm done making movies. And her and one other person, but it was mainly her, would say to me, "You got to make another film. You got to make another film, and it's got to be grungy. It's got to be horror. It's got to be gross." And that's when we made Fang. And that's how Fang came through. But I was very reluctant for a while to even make it. I was I was like, I'm just spent. After doing those films all the way up to Star, I was just like, and then Star was such a bad flop of a film for me as a director that I'm just like, I'm done. My career's done. And thankfully it wasn't.
It's funny. You just reminded me, when we first connected. And it was that time.
Was it?
It was, yeah. You were saying before that it was sometime when you were shooting Star, or I think you finished shooting Star, and I remember those talks where you were thinking, "I'm not making any more films. I'm done with this." And I was like, "Nah, you can't do that. You can't say that. It's not really what you want." I remember we had those talks.
Plus, you don't want to go out on a loser. You want to go at the top of your game. You don't want to go out on a loser.
Right.
The thing is, when you're on top of your game, you don't want to go out. You just want another one,
Yes. And that's what happens. You get too greedy, and then you make the next one, and either people don't care about it or it's, a success. You're only good as a filmmaker to your next project. So.
Absolutely.
The
funny thing is, like, you were both talking about your significant others, and you are both extremely lucky. And the more I get to know filmmakers sort of in our field, the more I find that there are people who have that. You know what I mean? But the majority don't have that. Well, some just don't have that interest or that love for film or that understanding. They're just different people. But the ones who do, like you guys, and like, I won't mention names, but we know a few other ones. That is hugely lucky. to have someone around to pick you up when you hit those low times, or just even when you're stressed out because there's so much to do, and someone who just kind of helps you out, whether they physically help you with things or not, it doesn't really matter. Sometimes they just push you in the right direction. When there's no one to push you got to push yourself. That's not easy.
But there's a lot that the spouses, and I'm sure Todd can agree that my wife, she takes a lot, there's a lot of stress that comes with a lot of this stuff. So she takes a brunt of it. But I will tell you a true story, and I'll be brief to say, every relationship that I've ever been in that I actually, focused on or dated or anything to that nature has all been lost because of filmmaking. So everyone has either dumped me or the relationship broke apart. But anyone that I was ever really serious about has always, all the way back to high school. So, lost my high school girlfriend to making film. And that film was bad. Like, the film was bad. I should have picked the girl over the film. That's how bad it was. Yeah. Like I'm a teenage boy. I have pimples on my face and I have a girlfriend. Here I'm like, forget the girlfriend type of thing going on. Let me go out and make this film with some dudes from high school. Like, that was my thing, and ultimately lost that girl. So
I can see that.
Yeah. And it's funny that you say you lost relationships because of film. And as soon as you said that, my wife tonight, when we were talking again, she just said, do you think we'd still be married if I wouldn't have been a part of this? And I said, I don't think so, because I said, because you know how much I love making movies. And she said, yeah, I do. And
the moment your significant other makes you pick is a question you have to ask: is that person really in love with me?
Right.
And
exactly.
I mean, my belief may be different than others, and that's totally fine. But I've always looked at it, if I can't be 100% happy with every element of my life and I'm just settling.
Yeah.
Like, I've settled before. I think we've all settled at one point or another.
Yep.
But, that's one of those things that it's, Itai, you're so right. Now you got to get a girlfriend or a significant other, to be politically correct, that would be somebody you could bring into the fold, because relationships in filmmaking do not work out unless they're in the fold. Jealousy is like the number one thing.
Yeah.
Tell number one thing, girlfriend.
That was your out loud voice.
All right, then. Make sure she watches this soundbite.
Whoo!
She knows. We've had this conversation.
Okay, well.
So is that
transition?
Okay, shit. Where do we go from here?
Lucky Todd is a good editor.
Oh. Okay, well.
What did you say there?
Oh, nothing. No, I'll bleep it out.
Oh, by the way, when you were talking before, Todd, I slipped my mind. I was trying to remember to tell you that, but I think you should start working on a film called Me, a Filmmaker.
Okay.
Me, a Rapist was just the start of a series.
Yeah, don't start with that one.
Oh my God.
A mockumentary.
Yeah, there you go. That's pretty funny. So as far as the film, so Ombus, you said it was your favorite film to work on, to make. Do you have like a second project that you go, yeah, I really like that one too?
Yes. Yeah, that would be Fang. Fang is the next one on that list of movies that I really enjoyed making. I really did enjoy making Fang. Fang is a film, I should say, Fang is a film that is very close, because it was one of those films that we actually traveled to for the location, and we stayed on property. But we could only put so many people in the house at any one time per our contract with the landowner. So we had to recycle people in and out from a hotel that was in town on this, we were shooting in the Finger Lakes of New York. So there was this like house we rented. It's a cathedral. It was awesome, epic. It's 1800s, and probably haunted. The first night we were there, we blew our generator. Excuse me, no. The first night we were there, this is a different story, blowing generators. We lost power. Thankfully, me and the production manager had talked about bringing a generator because we were able to salvage some of that. But that shoot put us so behind the bar that the rest of the week did end up suffering. But yeah, that was a very unique experience making film, Fang at such a, like, it's just like the whole experience, the camaraderie, the crew, the people, we were all very close because we had to be. And we would work from like 12 o'clock in the afternoon till like 4 a.m. because we only had so much time. So we had to shoot as much as we could in this location. And thankfully we all survived it.
Can I just ask, you had a certain number of people you were allowed in the house at one point.
Yeah.
Can I ask what that number was?
The number was 10.
Okay. No, because I was thinking, that would make it very difficult not having it, like being limited on how many crew you can have. Forget actors, but how many crew you can have around them.
Yeah, I typically have big crews too. Like on A Grim Becoming, I had a crew of like 25 people. On Fang, I had a crew of like 10 people. So
did you get creative? Did you have like the boom person or whatever standing outside the window with the boom inside going, he's not inside the house, he doesn't count?
Well, we could only have so many cars. There was only we could only show so many cars in the parking lot because the landowner actually lived right down the street. So she was driving back and forth once she found out we were filming a movie. She knew we were filming a movie, but when she saw like the shirts and the production equipment, she all of a sudden wanted more of this. And I said, I don't think so.
I can give you jazz hands, but not to this.
No, no. That's the only film I had three separate insurances on. 3. Wow. 2 because of the landowner and 1 because of the production company.
So at that point, would it be safe to say that Fang was the highest budget film you've made at that point?
No.
It wasn't?
No, it was not. I would say either Ambus or A Grim Becoming may have been the highest budgets I've ever made.
I can see that.
The Horrific Evil
locations, a ton of actors, yeah.
The Horrific Evil Monsters, once you add up at the end of the day, is probably very close to being up there too. It's like a $25,000 film. So, yeah.
Definitely felt a shift with Fang. I think that was at that point, which has been, I think, surpassed by the Horrific Evil Monsters as the best production value you had.
Yeah. And I think, in my opinion on audio, a Grim miniseries, Final Fracture, is the best audio we've ever done. But the Horrific Evil Monsters, you're right, quality-wise, it's right there.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one thing with that movie I was really noticing, and I actually told Itai before you came on about your production value and a lot of your projects. It's like, wow, he had a hospital, he had, this office, he had this building,
cars,
cleared out a fucking street with blocking off streets and all that stuff. I mean, when I was a kid, that we were able to do that shit, but that was one thing. One of my Super 8 movies that I made, we actually blocked off. I had a bunch of friends on bikes, and they blocked off either end of this street because we had this movie that I did. God, I wish I could remember the name. Anyway, it was about a car that came to life. It got mad when its owner kicked it too many times. And so the movie was him being chased by this car that had, we opened the hood and made these big, like almost shark teeth and had it chase
creativity.
Yeah, but we Automatic, that was the name of it. But we had to come down.
Todd loves Jaws. So he tries to put it into every film possible.
Yeah, right. It's funny. I didn't even think about that.
Chuck car.
But we had this shot that my brother, who was playing the guy who was being chased, had to come down this one street that we were shooting on and run out into another street. And so I had a bunch of my friends that were there. I said, hey, do me a favor. Bobby, Guy, and Alan, you guys go down there and put your bikes across. And when people come up, because people in our neighborhood didn't drive like maniacs because there were so many kids. So you could almost be guaranteed. So they were blocking one end of the street and had a couple other guys blocking the other side of the street. It wasn't like we had it blocked off for an hour or anything, but it was just, we had each end blocked off and it was kind of funny because after we shot it, because everything was one take on Super 8 film, because that's, you had 3 minutes and that was
yeah. Yeah.
So then, okay, we got the shot. Okay, guys, get your bikes out of the way. We got it. And so we moved the bike. Well, my dad was like 5 cars back when he was coming home from work. And he was like, what in the hell are you guys doing? And he saw my camera and he's, okay, never mind. I know what you're doing. So yeah, but that was, that was the one thing. What did you do in regards to that street corner?
It depends. It depends because each film has different political things you have to do. And by that, I mean, you have to kind of mingle with the right people. One of the things is I'm close with the commission in Buffalo. So Buffalo Film Commission, I know rather well those folks, and we've kind of created a rapport over the years. But for let's just talk Prisoners of the Dead when we had the car flipped over. Yeah. I was in my early 20s. I assembled a team of people to look as professional as possible. There was 5 of us, and we all had our own separate division that we were going to talk about. And we went to a board meeting for this village of Angola, New York, and we presented this concept and this idea to bring a zombie film out there. They said yes before the script was even written. So then they said yes, and we're like, well, now we have the street. We need to make the film. So we spent months to develop a script, and then we rushed it. And that's another reason why that film hasn't seen the light of day for many years, because we rushed certain things with it, and it just took time to fix those things. Needless to say, the police were there. The police chief was there. For a fact that guy pulled my record. He probably pulled every single person's record that was there that day. I had to deal with lawyers and insurances and contracts. Again, these are the stories people, they just don't see. And there is more story there, than in the actual film, just to get a street for a couple hours. What I like about that event was there was a couple restaurants in that village that were really struggling. And I mean, really struggling to the point of potentially going out of business type of struggling. We did so much promotion to get people to come out to be an extra in that film. There was over 1,000 extras. Wow. So 1,000 extras. And then there had to been, I don't know, maybe 300 onlookers all night long. So the Erie County, which is the county that we live in New York, had brought out these big RV trucks, like command centers and stuff like that. It was crazy. Such an awesome experience. I had walkies, I had security, there were police patrolling. It was just a great, it was a very, very unique thing. And the reason why I brought up the village with the restaurants is because at the end of the day, both of the restaurants approached me, the owners, and said they were able to pay off their monthly bills that were in arrears. Wow. And were able to pay a couple months of bills. So some places ran out of food. So at the end of the day, that made me feel good, because if the film did nothing else other than help a few people, fine. Let that be its legacy.
Yeah, that's cool.
And also with Horrific Evil Monsters, when you blocked the street, you did the whole thing with the charity with the clothes, yeah?
Yes.
Tell us about that?
For Horrific Evil Monsters, we had all the extras bring out a bag of clothes. So we're like, donate, and we're going to put it to some local charities. We got so many bags of clothing that we couldn't deliver it all. So we had to have other people help us. There was that many. There were totes, there were bins, there were, bags. That was another big community. So yeah, and then in Fang we did something for animals. We did the cat shelter. So we're still, we're very active with that. We're very community, and we like to give back. We've 388 Studios has donated money to local arts in New York. So we're, again, like I said, very community oriented.
Yeah, right. No, it's great sort of lateral thinking, getting the community involved, doing stuff with charities and stuff like that most of us don't, maybe we think about it, but maybe don't do for whatever reason.
It's a lot of work. You're running a production and now you're going to run a charity. Like, that's a lot. It's a lot.
I am a charity, damn it.
Ain't that the truth?
One. Do that one. Oh man. Let me see. I had another question. Of course, now I forgot what it was. Come on, Itai, take this over. While I'm thinking.
I don't know what your question was.
If I knew it, asking it.
But yeah, as far as features, I remember like we reviewed Fang on my indie review vlog.
Yes.
And then later on, I did a written review for The Horrific Evil Monsters. And I remember when I watched Horrific Evil Monsters, it was just like, it felt to me like you got to where you wanted to get to. Like this was a milestone for you, like a point that you marked as far as the production quality and everything coming together, that you finally hit that point kind of thing. That's kind of like how it felt watching that. I was like, this must be the movie that it might not be your favorite to shoot or whatever else, but at least the feeling of accomplishment of I made it as the director I want to be.
Right.
Was that anywhere near that?
Yeah. Like I like to say that I made The Horrific Evil Monsters to impress my wife. As funny as that may sound.
As good a reason as any.
We had Kristen and I had made we have made several films together, but I wanted to make a film that she would sit back and be like, there is not one thing wrong with that film, because if anybody's going to tell me there's something wrong with it, it's going to be her sitting right there complaining about it nonstop. Right. And you think after I leave here, it's not over. It's not over. But
that's good.
The Horrific Evil Monsters, I remember me and Kristen, we wrote it. We were under the influence at the time, writing this script. And I can remember that we were camping and that we were no cell signal. So for a whole weekend, we had a draft written, but it was just a poopy draft, if you will. I needed a little spice. And
don't get technical on us.
Yeah, that's the technical term
draft.
is poopy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she and I rewrote that weekend, and we had a blast getting to just write together. We haven't done that since. And once we had a finished product, I said, I'm going to try and really impress her with this somehow, because I felt at the time that was going to be the retirement film. Like that was going to start it. But obviously we know that's not the case. So, but the film actually was longer. We had to make some cuts to it. Like there was a scene in The Horrific Evil Monsters. It was a fart joke. And we ran out of time to shoot it. But basically all the main characters, like the zombie who was rotting, you had Death, you had all these other, or the Grim Reaper, you had Alex Creed, you had the alien. And then all of a sudden one of them farts inside the car. And the camaraderie between all the characters, it was a unique thing, and I'm sad we didn't get to it. But there was that scene. There was a scene I proposed originally, which Kristen decided to cut on the cutting floor, which I think really suffered. There was more Anna. There was actually a scene where Anna went home, and she ended up scratching her sister, which would have brought on the zombie plague that you saw in Prisoners of the Dead. but that was not shot. And then there was one other thing. There was another connection scene with Bishop Stevens where he was battling, as all of them are battling the four horsemen inside the Tomb of Cyrus. Creed is outside defending the entranceway with this big ass gun, and the fun things that happen with that. But we lost actually a full day of shooting on that film and had to make cuts. So. Yeah, that was one thing that got cut from it, unfortunately. Those three items, they stand out to me.
I remember that. That was because you did something on social media around the time you were shooting, where I think you lost 2 generators that day or something like that?
Yeah. We were in this ravine in the middle of nowhere, and we were hours away. Yeah, it was a great location, but we were hours away from anywhere, civilization. So we only had, I think we had 3 generators, but 2 of them had blown. So we were running off of, we were running off of 1 at the time. I think it was just the one that I own, but I'm not sure which one anymore. Anyways, it doesn't matter. The point I'm trying to make is we ran out of the juice, and then it started raining, and then I didn't have enough power for the lighting. People are starting to get cold. So we were actually set up hours away from home, and I'm like, we're calling it. We're not shooting the thing. And we left. We left at 3 a.m.
Wow.
And I got home, and Chris and I went right to, because we had people sleeping at our house. We went right to the bedroom, and we started writing how we could fix missing all that, because we only had so many days with these people.
Right.
So, and that's why the Tomb of Cyrus it's almost like a shorter scene, but it was originally supposed to be much bigger. Yeah.
And there's a video of that somewhere where Adam is calling it off, and he did not look happy.
No. I don't know if the video actually has ever surfaced, but there's a clip of me walking away, of me being pretty pissed off. That did make the internet somewhere.
There was a shot from sort of inside the ravine pointing up, where you are walking up the top and you're saying something along the lines of, "That's it, we're calling it off, we're going home," or something like that.
Oh, then maybe it did
happen. I vaguely recall that. Yeah. He might not be up anymore, but it was for a time.
Well, the thing too is we also had limited crew out there. So, and I had the most crew that day, the day that everything blew. And, we were in a ravine miles away. To walk back up to the top of the hill.
Something's going on with the sound.
Yeah. To walk up to the top of the hill took at least 20 minutes to walk around. So we had to put these ladders in the ravine, and we were going up and down them. But then once we called it, we had everything set up, every single thing, jibs, lights, everything. We had to break it all down and oh man, you're going to get me going. It's going to be fire again.
The beautiful thing about that is that we could look back and go, with all that crap we went through, all that shit that happened, we made a film.
You still got it done.
Yeah.
And it's good,
and it's watchable.
That's the thing. It's good, and it's
a good film, man.
I think almost every filmmaker has a story like that, in indie anyway. Where it looked like sometimes it's just a day, but for us it looks like we're not going to forget the film finished. Something's going to not work out because of a day like that, but we still manage. We find solutions, and I think that's what being the director is all about. We're just problem solvers.
Yeah, we're problem solvers, but we're also very hard decision makers, because we're the ones that there's a lot of say in what our vision is showing, and to cut certain things could really hurt your project.
Well, but
I tell you, with Third Temple, I cut a lot, but I look at it today and I don't think about what I cut out anymore. I'm still proud of the fact that I creatively found solutions, to combat that, and still got a film out of it.
Yeah,
that's how I look at it.
That's what I was gonna say too. Is you guys, everybody else went to bed, and you guys went and started rewriting.
Yeah,
it's so that just shows, the tenacity of you guys as a production team, to be able to just sit down and go, okay, you know what, we didn't get this done. okay, how are we going to fix it? Because most people would do one of two things. They go, oh, it's a plot hole that nobody'll notice. But then or you could have just said, fuck it, I'm done.
Well, yeah, right.
No,
And that would have been
you didn't do
pretty
that.
bad.
Yeah.
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 You know, some of the actors were in makeup for quite a bit. And, you know, we had to shoot 2 days in one at that point. And it was tough. It was tough. I know Kaylee Williams was in a full prosthetic. That was like her main makeup day.
Mm-hmm.
And both of those days, there were 2 days that she was going to be like really in that makeup. And the first day that the generators blew, she was in complete wardrobe, ready to go. It took hours to get her ready, and took about 5 minutes to take it all off. You know, and then the day after, we started making her up at like, I don't know, maybe 2:00. And for a shoot that was not going to start until like 9:30. So, I mean, she was in that makeup for quite some time. I remember her telling me she was itchy. And I remember she said that she'll never look at eating chicken the same way, because when she's eating famine, that's actually a mixture of barbecue sauce and chicken. So yeah, she's a trooper though. I love Kaylee. She's good. She's a good actress.
It's good that you mentioned her, actually, because I had a question. Well, not exactly a question, but you mentioned before that your favorite scene now of all the films you ever made is actually the scene with Anna, with Kaylee.
Yeah, her introduction. Yeah,
Zombie Anna. You want to tell us a bit more about that scene?
Yeah, you know, that scene, we took a lot of. The Horrific Monsters takes a lot of like really fine-tooth combs to make sure that you got everything. You want to make sure there's nothing. We even go to the extent of having a name tag, Anna, like it's part of her wardrobe. Like that is so unique to me. And the colors was another big thing. The contrast of colors of her wardrobe. And then you're in this room and there's this plastic with caution tape everywhere, you know, like it's been sealed off. And you're in this this diner, right? You're in this kitchen of a diner, and next to him is this hulking giant of a man with this machine gun in full mask, everything.
Hazmat, yeah.
Yeah. And I remember that another story we were talking about, Chris and I, recently was the fact that we went, like, that originally wasn't in the script, the hazmat guy. We went back and bought that extra stuff, had that character wear it, because we're like, we got to do something with this. We got to make it look a little more authentic. And and then Chris Brechtel did the mix scene and the blood and the whole, like, you rip off the bandage and you see how deep the wound is, and it's just it's well written, it's well designed, the story, the shots. I mean, just everything about it. I remember it was 6 shots that we did, and I hung up the picture and on set, the storyboard on set, and everybody was like, "Oh, what is that? Puddle in water? Is that puddle in water?" Because they make fun of my drawings. I'm like, I know what it is. That's all you need to know. It's a puddle in water to you, but to me, it's a bloody arm, you know, ripped open. But again, that's another reason. Kaylee Williams, I've been wanting to work with since Prisoners of the Dead. That was in 2011. We had talked about several projects of her coming on, and finally the Horrific Monsters came up, and I'm like, I'm writing this role specifically for you. I don't think she realized how much makeup she was going to be in, and I definitely know that to be a fact. But you know, we did tell her beforehand, you're going to be in heavy makeup some days, so you prepare for that. And she embraced it. And she didn't complain to me, but I'm sure she did some underneath her breathing, you know?
I hate these guys. I hate them.
I'm never working.
I'll never work with them again.
Until the next film.
Yeah.
Really? You're making another one?
Yeah, just another one.
Part for me?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Well, you know what? There was another question. As far as like your funding comes from, you don't have to name people, but what have you done over the years to be able to, and I've asked this to a few other guests that we've had on, but you know, what have you done to secure financing outside of paying things for yourself? Because I pretty much I know what it's like. When we did the dramatic film that I did a couple of years ago called "Do You Like to Draw?" We financed the whole thing. It was like $16,000 out of our own pockets. And I heard you say that you guys have taken money out of your own pockets, but other times, where have you been able to secure your funding from?
A couple of things. First off, let me just back up a little bit about when I started. So when I started, I invested a lot of money into myself to try to get exposure for somebody to take notice of this.
Mm-hmm.
Then after that, I started finding individual producers who were not producers. So they're not in the business. So they only knew so much of the business. And it basically was me saying, hey, you want to come out and make a film and invest into it. All right. They didn't know how to do it. So they basically became a team of people. But what I would do is, for most times, I would front most of the funding to almost all the films, just depending on which one, of course. But I would seek out individuals during tax season and in the United States. And, the old saying is, if you don't see it, it was never there, right?
Right.
So if, refunds come in for people that they wanted to contribute to our project. I mean, the producers get certain types of royalties and things to that nature, just depending on the project, of course, and the agreement or whatever. So it's not like it becomes an investment. But that's what I looked at. I looked at around tax season, saying, hey, you have a couple extra bucks. Are you looking to invest? And then those individuals would come on, or they'd say no. But that's really what I looked at. Not everybody has $2,000 or $1,000 in their back pocket.
Right.
So when does everybody, come into some money? Well, tax season, some people come into a little bit of money, right?
Right.
But that wasn't always the case. Eventually I outgrew that. And once I outgrew that, it became more of industry producers, branching out, networking, connecting them into the fold, if you will, and then they would sign on and produce the project. I was never a crowdfunder. I didn't really believe it, but my stance on that has changed over the years, where I do believe in it to a certain respect, but I also believe that certain filmmakers should not be using those types of campaigns because it takes away from the indie guys. But at the end of the day, that is kind of like my path. And now I'm to the point where I work with a studio, 388 Studios, releasing, and we're to the point now where we are just self-funding the projects that we produce. With producers, you get a lot of baggage. You can use that phrase for whatever you want, but every producer thinks, well, I'm just not going to get into all that, but I will just sum it all up that, in my view, I'm very selective on the producers that I work with going forward.
Okay.
Yeah. You don't want them to get more involved than you want them to be.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. I can understand that completely.
Well, and then too, it's like, we're being indie filmmakers. We want to have as much creative freedom as we can get,
Yeah.
Don't want anybody hovering over the top of you, telling you what to do.
And I've had films that have suffered from that. A Grim Becoming is an example of that. We had I hate to say it, but there might have been 20 producers on that film. It could have been even 22. And that film was a beast to make. And the film's original runtime, before the director's cut was released, was over 2 hours. So when I had a producer meeting, I met with all of them, and they wanted the extended cut released. And I believe the film needed some serious trimming, because the vision had gotten lost. I remember during shooting, we had add characters like Bill Obrist, who ended up signing on while we were shooting the film, and Melantha Blackthorne. And they were cast in roles that were nothing. They were just like the random father and stuff. And when they got to set, it's like, how do you have such talent on set and not use their abilities? So we started, the producers would approach me and say, can we give this character a little bit of this? Or can we do something with this? And I would allow it. But when the film came out, I sat back and I remember being in the theater and being like, wow, my vision really was twisted in certain ways that I was like, there was even some like, well, I'm not going to get into what there was things in there that I just politically don't approve of these days. And that was done also by producer influence that I didn't realize at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's things in there that I wish would have been different, but the director's cut's out now. It's a good cut. You should check it out.
Cool. Is that on Tubi as well? Nice.
It's everywhere. Yeah, it's streaming everywhere. But if you ever get a chance to see the extended cut, it's a unique thing to watch if you've never seen it before.
All right. Yeah, I haven't seen that one.
There's a scene in it that was cut from the director's cut where we chainsaw this guy's like head right off. And it's very Evil Dead and over the top. And it is on YouTube. If you search out on my channel, Indie Adam, you'll see it. It's a deleted scene from A Grim Becoming. And it's intense to watch. So, yeah.
Brutal. Right on.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
The only film we haven't talked about, I think, of any type of relevance is Homicidal Vengeance. But Homicidal Vengeance came off of a spin-off film, a spin-off character from Prisoners of the Dead. The Devon character who gets pulled out of the car at the end is the same character that's in the Homicidal Vengeance story.
So he got when he gets killed, the laugh,
he got his own spin-off, and we actually shot Homicidal Vengeance only as a test. We shot like one segment of the film as a test, and we're like, well, we really like the story, want to keep telling it, so we told 2 more sections. But it was really a test to show how we could do fight sequences for Ombus. So we were in pre-production for Ombus, and we were trying to figure out ways to do fight sequences with camera work and stuff like that. So we shot Homicidal Vengeance just for that purpose. But then it became like a sensation, at least locally. It's probably one of the most, if I can remember correctly, one of the better financial films that we've had come out in our time with the return on it. So return on investment is probably one of the better ones. But that was a unique experience. A lot of great actors on that film, and a lot of talent, a lot of grindhouse grungy fun. That was one thing that I liked about it. It was just kind of one of those things, and I was watching, I was going, oh yeah, this is super grindhousey, man. I like this. It's ridiculous. And like sometimes you want to go into a film and just watch something that's just so ridiculous. You don't have to like think anything more than this shit's ridiculous and I love it. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It's one of the few that I haven't fully like seen the whole film yet. I've seen parts.
You got to really embrace it. Like that's a film that you sit down and you're just like, let's just go. Let's just watch this and just I kind
of got that from the original title of the 3 sections, that it was going to be kind of grindhouse and kind of exploitation type, over the top violence and stuff.
And the pitch for that film was Hobo with a Shotgun. Like that film had come out, and I had reached out to the lead actor Alex McBride and said to him, "Have you seen Hobo with a Shotgun?" And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "I'm like, I want to make something like that, but with you as the lead. What do you think? I want to do this one little section." He's like, I want to do it for a test. And then he ended up being in Ombus. He's in Ombus 2 as the Mr. Gray. And I'm like, this will be perfect opportunity for us. And he's like, oh, I love stunts. And then he reads the 13 pages of the draft that I had written with the other writers. And he's like, there's a lot here. And you want to shoot it when? Like each section was shot in one day. So like when you're watching some of that, like the sections are shot in one day. It's a lot. 12, 24-hour days. Or not 12, 24 hours. 12 full days. Or 12 full-hour days is what I'm trying to say.
Gotcha.
But it was only 3 days to shoot that entire film.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our conversation with director, producer, writer, Mr. Adam Steigert. So
Adam Jazz Hands
Steigert. Okay. And so Adam, if people want to get a hold of you to talk to you about whatever they want to talk to you about, or if they want to find you on social media and find you, where can they find you at? Well, I do have a YouTube channel that is Indie Adam. You can just search that out.
You can find any of our titles on any of the streaming services out there now. We're everywhere. You can find me on social media at Adam Steigert, and it's the official. It says it right there, official, like I'm something important, but there that is. I'm on Instagram and I'm on the TikTok, for the young kids. But I'm everywhere.
Productions.
You can also go to Mindy Productions. Great, phenomenal website, by the way. Let me tell you, it's great.
It is.
For all you,
so nice of you to remember.
For all you artists out there, if you're not following Mindy Productions, then you're in trouble. You're like missing out. You're like really doing yourself a disservice.
Yes,
I'm sending Adam after you if you're not following. Be careful.
Yeah.
But like I said, I look forward to speaking with you folks again and, telling you a little more. I'm just full of stories. We could go on for days and days and days. So thank you again for having me on. And I look forward to seeing more from you.
Well,
definitely been awesome having you on. Like I said, it's been months in the making. So finally, Adam and I usually communicate through WhatsApp messages. Every now and again we have a chat. It's nice to actually do almost like a face-to-face, let's call it.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It's good to see you from time to time, my friend.
Absolutely. All right. So
I haven't grown any hair since last time.
You never will. You never will. So
true.
Itai, if people want to get a hold of us, how do they do that?
They do that via the email address that is on the screen. Usually it's above my head. I'm not sure if we can find it there this time. Is it still there?
It's always there.
It's always there. It's above my head. You can write to us there. You can find us on the Facebook page for the Straight Shooters. You can find us on Mindy Productions. There's a Straight Shooters page. There's Adam's page. There's Todd's page. There's my page. There's tons of stuff. But yeah, we're also on Instagram and Twitter. And Twitter under Mindy Productions. But yeah, you can contact the Straight Shooters there as well.
All right. So once again, thank you to Adam for hanging out with us tonight. And we thank you all for watching. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Like, share, comment, subscribe. It happens throughout the entire episode. It'll come up. Yeah. Share this video will be on Adam's right side or on the left side of the screen. And the subscribe and everything else would be on the right side of the screen. So make sure that you guys do all of that. We appreciate you watching the Straight Shooter Show, ladies and gentlemen, and we will see you next time right here. Thanks for watching.